Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy New Year. We're so excited to see everyone's face on this presentation, January 16th, 2024. We're in 2024, and we are going to share Hick and Pitt with all of you fine people. So internally, Solari has had some team updates that I'm so excited to share with you. So we stole a couple of people. Randy Hade is now our Director of Homeless Initiatives. Chris Moeller and Sam Duas are our HMIS managers. So we have two HMIS managers. We have a different leadership structure, and this is to support what's happening in the community and both continuums so that we can have more sound, fast service and continued customer support. So we're excited about our new team as it's being built out. Awesome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Frankie Dees, and I'm a HMIS specialist over here. And today we're going to talk about agenda. The overall of update steps we're asking agencies to do for the Hick and Pitt are the Hick and Pick would be our point in time count, how many were homeless on one night, a snapshot of homelessness in a region, combining the unsheltered count with those who are sheltered but technically considered homeless. Housing inventory count, which is the Hick. This is what we'll need for that was the inventory on the same night, a one-night inventory of provider programs that issue beds and units dedicated to serving persons experiencing homelessness. The Hick and Pick schedule of upcoming actions and also the details and FAQs for each step. Webinar reminders, share any relevant information with appropriate staff at your agency. Ask questions using the Q&A functions. Remember, attendance is collected by the program. Webinar recording and notes will be sent out to you by Tuesday, January 23rd, and they are due by February 2nd. Friday will be the deadline for the quiz and video webinar.
All right, that'll be me, it looks like. So we just have information about the Hick Pit itself, and we're just trying to be really clear on the dates. We know this can be confusing sometimes, and has been confusing in the past. So on the Balance Estate side, the shelter pit is actually be the night of the 23rd, and into the morning of the 24th is when Balance Estate will be surveying individuals from that, Wednesday, January 24th through that next Tuesday, the 30th. To indicate people who are unsheltered where they're staying on the night of the 23rd. But for the actual sheltered pit, which is what we'll be covering in this particular webinar, it's going to be the night of the 23rd is what we're looking at for Balance Estate. On the Maricopa side, we'll be looking at the sheltered pit is the evening of January 22nd, and moving into that following morning, the morning of January 23rd is when the individual will go out and actually communicate with unsheltered individuals and do the count then. So on the reporting side, this will be hard coded into the reports on both the Balance Estate and the Maricopa side. So you won't have to worry about inputting these dates into the reports at all. And we'll just make sure that the language is really clear in the reports so that when you are running those, the 628 and the 630, it's very clear on what evening we're looking at. So.
Okay, as mentioned, Hick Pit is for both Balance Estate and Maricopa County with the following programs: permanent housing, permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, other permanent housing, emergency shelter, transitional housing, and safe haven. So if your agency has one of those 7 programs, we're going to be asking your agency to, number one, verify basic information about your project. There may be new or updated details that have changed in the past year, and therefore, number 2, we'll ask you to verify your bed and unit inventory. And number 3, we'll ask you to verify the number of clients enrolled in your projects on the night of the point in time count. Some key dates for your calendar. On January 23rd, the HMIS team will be sending each agency's primary point of contact the list of projects they must verify. We'd encourage agencies to run a preliminary data quality report. From January 23rd through the 29th, agencies should run and complete data quality cleanup. And after doing so, please contact the HMIS team if you need assistance or if you need to report a correction. The following week, the 29th through February 9th, you will verify data on the appropriate reports for each project. And at that time, if everything is accurate, then great, go ahead and send the reports to the HMIS team. If corrections need to be made, please have them changed and rerun the reports. At that time, we can send the reports to the HMIS team after verifying the updates are correct on those reports. And then February 9th is your deadline to send the reports to HMIS. We'd encourage you to send them earlier if possible, but accuracy is more important than turning it into a sprint. The following week after the February 9th deadline, the HMIS team will work with select projects that require additional follow-up. And back to Sam.
Look, I'm muted, so that's not very helpful. So some more information about the HICPIT there. So the first question we have is who receives my agency's list of projects. We do send this to the agency's primary point of contact, and they've agreed to receive this information, and they should be able to distribute the lists and the projects that need to be verified appropriately. What reports need to be run? So these are the reports we run in the past, and Curtis will be covering these in more detail later, but for projects, permanent housing projects, for the permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, and other permanent housing projects, they'll be using the 628 HIC supplement. And then for the 630, that will be used for shelters, emergency shelters, transitional housing, and safe haven projects to verify their data. These agencies are required to run the report for the PIT date of 123. Colloquially, Maricopa and Balance of State both use the 23rd as their PIT date, but as we discussed earlier, Balance of State will be looking at the evening of the 23rd, and Maricopa looking at the evening of the 22nd. Again, you won't have to enter these dates; they'll be in the report hard-coded. They are available. We'll make a couple updates on the Balance of State side, but both will be available this week and prior to the PIT date. In addition, some information about these reports. Each report has multiple tabs, so we're trying to confirm provider information, bed information, and client counts. These are all sort of critical information to have that HUD requires for the PIT and HIC reports. It does take SAPO about 24 or SAP 24 hours to show changes. So if you do correct client counts in the report or in Service Point itself, you'll have to wait till the next day to run the reports to make sure the client counts and information is accurate. And if agencies do find the client counts are incorrect on the reports, they'll just need to be corrected in HMIS. So you update, client entries and exits, duplicates, whatever it needs to be. Please reach out to the help desk and submit tickets for technical assistance. There can definitely be tricky issues, and the HMIS team is definitely happy to help and resolve any sort of issues where you can't get that report to show the correct client count.
All right, and you'll know that those reports are ready to go and ready to be sent in once they are accurate. If they're not accurate, go ahead and make any appropriate changes, as Sam said. And just remember that when you make changes in HMIS, it does take business objects up to about 24 hours to record those changes. So it'll take a little time for those to show up in SAPO. Once you do have those reports and they're completely accurate and they're ready to be sent in, go ahead and send them to us at the HMIS support desk. That's hmis-support@solari-inc.org. And the HMIS team will do a quick final validation on those just to make sure that everything matches. The submission deadline for these, as Sam said, is February 9th. We would love it if you could send those a little bit earlier than that. But as John noted, we definitely prioritize accuracy over getting them in early. So go ahead and take your time to make sure that those are completely accurate for that submission date on the 9th.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. I'm going to briefly do an overview of sort of where the reports are located and what they look like and how to run them. As Sam said, and it was noted that a lot of the information will already be in the report and hard coded in, so you won't have to add too much in the report queries. Can I take the screen share? Thank you. All right. So this is Service Point, and we're just going to go to business objects to run these reports. We'll do this by clicking on the Connect to Business Objects in the top right corner of the screen. And after Business Objects loads, we're going to go to our folders. And for Maricopa County, we're going to go to Public Folders Arizona Live folder. And for Balance of State, we're going to use the Arizona Department of Housing Live folder. Most users are only going to have access to one of those folders, so you shouldn't have to make that clarification on your own. But just so that it's clear, the folders are Arizona Live for Maricopa, Department of Housing Live for Balance of State. And then once you get into that folder, there should be a folder named Federal Reports, and we're going to go there. And under Federal Reports, we'll find a folder that says HIC PIT. Underneath this HIC PIT folder, we'll find the 0628 and 0630 reports for 2024. The 0628 is for our permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, and other permanent housing projects. And the 0630 is for the sheltered pit for emergency shelter, safe haven, and temporary housing. These reports can be scheduled or run. You can schedule a report by simply right-clicking the report and selecting schedule. Changing the title, it's often nice to add the project ID here so that you know what project this was run for, and it will be saved there in this in the title of the report in your instances. One other important note about running these reports is that we need an individual report for each project. So while you are able to select multiple providers at times in some reports, this report, we really do need it for a single provider for each 0628 or 0630 report. The other thing to note is you can run this as a Excel reports, Adobe Acrobat, or Web Intelligence. The final submission will need to be in a PDF format. However, I often recommend for data quality purposes running it in an Excel because it's easier to work on and change and find errors in the Excel document rather than the PDF. Finally, you'll click Edit Prompt Values. And it'll take a minute to load and you'll find your provider. Find the effective date we'll make sure to update this so that the effective date automatically will go to the date that you need. We'll change it so that it's running for the night of the 23rd. Apply. Once there's a provider there and the effective date is correct, you'll simply hit schedule. And that'll schedule the report to show up in your instances section. The other option when running the report is to click on the report itself, and this will be running the report within Web Intelligence. And we're going to follow the same process. The reason why I don't like to do this is because it does take some time for the report to run and load at times. And so I often will, instead of running the report, I'll schedule instead. Again, changing this to be for the night of the 23rd. And once the provider and effective date is entered, I simply click run. And it'll take some time for this report to run. When you run it as a PDF, this is what your final document is going to look like. And what's great about this report is the instructions for using it and the process are all included right here. So you can really start with step 1 and go in and finding that verifying number of clients served page, which should be the one more down. And you're going to make sure that all clients counts are correct. So you'd look here and see that there was 92 clients served, all in households without children. If that number is correct, you would proceed to step 2. If it's not correct, the agency is responsible for correcting that data in HMIS. You can refer to the section titled Client Served Audit to assist in identifying errors. On this page, some common errors you might see are related to head of households, start dates or end dates not being correct, and various information here. If there's an error, it'll show up in red and be something that you may need to go back and correct. And the HMIS team is here to help if you get stuck and need more assistance correcting an error. Once your clients' counts are accurate, you can navigate to the section titled Verify Provider Information and follow the instructions on this tab. And it's really just going through and verifying some of the basic background information about your provider. The federal grant type tag, federal grant type page is included here, so that there's for basically just for information purposes, you can refer back and know what each of these is and make sure that the federal funding or funding type is correct. Finally, we've included this verify bed availability, which is a output of the inventory that we have in the system. And we want to make sure that this inventory is correct to the actual number of beds you have. This would be the last step of verifying this information. And if anything's wrong with this information or the provider information, go ahead and send an email to the HMIS team and we'll get that information corrected within Service Point for you. I also pre-ran a report here for what it would look like in Excel. We can verify the client served. And as I move to this client served audit, this report, you'll see there's a few clients missing housing move-in dates or having housing move-in dates that are not valid because they were before the client's entry date. On the 0628 for the permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, this is a very common error. Only clients with a valid housing move-in date, which occurs on or after the client's entry date and is before their exit, will be included in the report. Otherwise, this report will look the same. And again, the final report will need to be submitted in a PDF format.
There were a couple of questions that came up on the sidebar, and John just responded to one of them. But on the first page that Curtis was showing in the report, there was a YouTube link that was from last year. So we'll update that to show how to run the report this year. It'll just do the exact same thing that Curtis showed, how to run the report, schedule it, but it'll be a lot more easy to kind of walk through that than a live session. But that will go ahead and we'll have that video up, and so you can link to that in the report itself. As for written instructions, the actual report itself does have the written instructions on how to interface with that, as well as the video will have the walkthrough as well. We had one other question about the date. So we had just a confirmation that we should put 122 or 123. So again, the only date prompt that we're seeing is something called the effective date. So that's the date that the data just pulls information from. So you can even use an effective date as of, if you run the report on 2/1 or February 1st, 2024, you could put an effective date of February 1st, 2024, and that just shows the most recent information in Service Point itself. In terms of the actual dates that affect the client counts, those will all be hard-coded on the back end. So those will be hard-coded on the balance of state and Maricopa side. So you really can't go wrong with the effective date that you answer or that you put in, because the dates that actually fundamentally change the counts will be in the back end here. So I'm seeing what type of communication can we expect between now and early February, and Alexis can probably go and confirm this probably with more accuracy than I can, but I know we'll be sending out all the notes for this webinar by the 23rd. We'll be sending out a list of all of the projects that need to be verified to point of contacts on the 23rd as well. And in addition, the ongoing communication will just be having those reports good and having the video specifically updated. Otherwise, we'll all be sort of the HMIS team working with different agencies. So if certain questions do come in, you'll be working generally with the same person to work through tickets and work through those reports. Am I missing anything there, Alexis?
So no, you're right on point. Thank you, Carmen, for your question. Each agency will be assigned a specific team member from the HMIS side. So all of your communication will go through him or her outside of things that you might submit a ticket for. So we'll be communicating effectively after the 23rd with you directly. So say if I'm your point of contact on the team, Carmen, you and I will be going back and forth to get your reports all squared away and verifying your information. So we're all assigned an agency like years past.
I do see one other question if there's an advanced report training that would go over this report for new admins. I don't generally believe we've included in the past, since it is a once-a-year process. That's something we can definitely discuss internally, and that might just be a useful report to have throughout the year. I'm not entirely sure, but it hasn't been trained generally for the advanced report training, but we'll go and look at that internally and see if that might be something worth doing, just so everyone's familiar with this process way before the actual pit HIC date.
So the question was, can we get instructions to run earlier? So on the data side, is there anything that an agency can do right now before we send out instructions on the 23rd to prep for what's going to happen with HIC and PIT?
So we do actually have a number of processes. The actual 628, 630 reports, that's, the night of the 22nd and the 23rd has not even occurred yet. So we're not going to be able to really clean that information up. But if you would just submit a ticket to the help desk, we do have a number of reports that you can look at your data in the back end to help with clean up the process. As agencies do have questions and work with us, if they have specific concerns, we'll sort of point them in the direction of good reports, both in Service Point as well as SAP to clean up the data. But if you could, we'll just reach out to you. Oh, sweet. Yeah, if you'd like to start cleaning up the data right now and see what other ways you can do that prior to the 24th or the 23rd, the night of the 22nd or the night of the 23rd, depending on your continuum, submit a ticket and we can actually direct you to a few different reports. And we do have in the chat, someone did note you can run the report now and it will show some errors right off the bat. So if your clients are not exited and so forth, it may be useful to go ahead and just start working on those right away. So that's an excellent point.
And then John, you want to go ahead and wrap us up? Or I can?
Sure, no, sure thing. I've gotcha. I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us today. And as you exit, there's going to be a quick 4-question survey that's going to populate on your screen. The survey is not only provides helpful feedback to our team, but it's also going to record your attendance for being here today. If you didn't happen to get your question answered today, please send us a ticket and we'll get to you as quickly as possible. And so thank you. Have a great week.